Thank you so much, Glory, for that wonderful opening remark. As he introduced me earlier, my name is Opera Benita Kilichi, and I'll be your moderator for today. Let's just go straight into reading the citation of our guest speaker for today. Dr. Anthony Babatunde Sholanke is a professional architect who has practiced extensively in Nigeria for over 2 decades before joining academics in 2015. He's a registered member of the Architects Registration Council of Nigeria, ARCON, and the Nigeria Institute of Architects, NIA, an affiliate of the International Union of Architects, UIA, Commonwealth Association of Architects, CAA, and African Union of Architects, AUA. Dr. Sholanke has practiced extensively in the construction industry in Nigeria in various capacities, which include project architect, resident architect, project manager, company manager, and company director before joining Covenant University in 2015 as a lecturer of the Department of Architecture. Notably among the projects he has handled include Tropicana Hotel in Kano and Kaduna, Rendezvous Foods Plaza in Accra, Ghana, Tasty Fried Chicken outlets in Ogba, Ikorodu, Marina, VI, and Festac Town in Lagos. Others include Elizade University project in Ilara Mokin, RCCG Oasis Parish in Shomolu, Lagos, Calvary Cathedral in Kano, and several residential projects scattered around the country. Dr. Sholanke obtained his OND and HND in architecture from Yaba College of Technology in 1986 and 1989, respectively. He later obtained his first and second degree in architecture with distinction from the University of Lagos, Akoka, in 1998. He obtained a PhD in architecture from the prestigious Covenant University, Otta, as the best PhD graduating candidate from the Department of Architecture in 2019. That deserves a round of applause, please. He is currently a senior lecturer and chairman of the Facilities Monitoring and Maintenance Committee in Covenant University, an adjunct lecturer in Caleb University, and a consultant practicing architect. In the last 19 years, he has successfully supervised 42 BSc and 17 MSc students in the Department of Architecture in Covenant University. Dr. Sholanke has contributed reasonably to the development and advancement of knowledge globally with a total of 56 publications, which include international conferences and journal papers. His publications are available online in reputable academic databases for research articles. Notably among such research repositories are Scopus, Web of Science, Google Scholar, ResearchGate, Academia, and Covenant University Repository. Dr. Anthony Babatunde Sholanke is a Special Marshal of the Federal Road Safety Corps, a Rotarian, and a Paul Harris Fellow. He is married to Elizabeth Ekundayo, who is also an architect and a business entrepreneur. They have been married for over 22 years and are blessed with 2 boys and a daughter. With a resounding round of applause that we want to see in the chat room, let's make welcome the Dr. Anthony Babatunde Sholanke. I want to see your reactions in the chat room. Applauses, thumbs up, whatever. React, because who is about to come on stage is someone with caliber, someone with track record. So please, let's not be silent in the chat room. Let's keep clapping till he starts speaking. You're welcome, sir. Is he on? Yes.
Thank you.
So you have to flow now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelechi. As you were reading my citation, I was wondering whether you were actually talking about me. I didn't know I've achieved this much in just about 10 years of my academic journey. But I give God the glory. I want to start this presentation by first of all thanking the National Association of Architecture Students, national body, and of course the Society of Architecture Students of Covenant University that put this piece together. I very much cherish issues that have to do with research, especially research carried out by students. And as you all know me, I don't push any students away when it comes to research. When you come to me for advice, whether I'm directly supervising your work or not, I like giving students ideas here and there. And having said that, I think that is what made the Society of Architecture students to come up with a topic that they feel I should be able to help students to get through, to navigate through when it comes to their research. So having said that, I would like to share my screen. So the topic is actually deliverables of academic research articles suitable for publication. What that simply means is that what are those nitty-gritty that are supposed to be in an academic paper that we consider suitable for publication? The learning objectives is, I'm going to give you a background to the presentation that is trying to tell you how this presentation came about. And then, of course, the aim of the presentation, the objectives, overview of academic research, because what we'll be talking about in the next 45 minutes to 1 hour is about academic research. So you need to have a clear understanding of what academic research is all about. And I will give you my own personal definition of academic research that I coined in 2023, based on the aggregate of what I feel academic research is about. And then, of course, we now get down to the nitty-gritty of why we are here today, that give you the fundamentals of an academic research article. As we are all aware, man is naturally an inquisitive being who likes to find out about things around him. There are a number of ways of knowing if something exists. Prominent among such ways include sensory experience, logic, agreement with others, experts' opinions, or scientific approach. So this presentation centers around scientific method of inquiry. In the academic community, a research is generally regarded as an investigation conducted in a scientific manner to offer solutions to a problem. Such problem could be social, environmental, or even medical. A research is a medium of developing novel solutions to problems as well as advanced knowledge. Therefore, research is the basis of knowledge which constitutes an important part of development. Higher institutions, particularly universities, are environments where students and lecturers engage in academic research through rigorous scientific procedures. Such researches are methodically conducted and documented. Their outcomes are usually presented in seminars and conferences or published in journals in order to advance knowledge. Public presentations and publications of research manuscripts are among the yardsticks for assessing the impact of a scholar in the academic community. So consequently, researchers usually target publishing their work in high impact journals. You want to have your work in schools, you want to have it in Elsevier, you want to have it in academia, and so on and so forth. However, it is not all academic research works that get to be published. rejection of manuscript by publishers is a common occurrence in the academic community, as all researchers, including myself, at some point in our lives, have had some of our papers rejected. According to recent data, the average rejection rates for Elsevier journals over the last 5 years is about 68%. And you know what that simply means? That translates to the fact that an average acceptance rate is just about roughly 32% across their diverse range of publications. Several reasons can cause a paper to be rejected for publication. However, foremost among such reasons is what we want to tackle here today, and that is technical inadequacies. There is therefore a need to examine published peer-reviewed articles to gain insight on the necessary components required in manuscripts that are devoid of avoidable technical flaws. It is on this note that this presentation was put together to examine the various components of research articles with a view to provide insights on the technical requirements of a research paper that is suitable for publication towards making contributions to assist researchers, particularly students, in developing manuscripts that are devoid of avoidable technical errors. In this, my presentation, two objectives were set for the study. The first is to highlight the elements of academic research, and the second is to examine these components of academic research articles to ascertain their specific requirements. The constituent parts, and I must stress this part very well, the constituent part of a research article were examined in the context of the requirements of a research manuscript for publication, and not exhaustively as obtained in literatures for teaching research procedures or methodology. I'm not here to teach you how to conduct research. I'm just here to pinpoint to you what are those various elements that you require in your research, such that when your research is being judged, it's not going to have all those technical errors that gets a reviewer pissed off when he's looking at your paper. So your research will only be judged based on its academic input, based on its input, and not on technical flaws. So that is the purpose of this presentation. So it is on this note that we look at what is actually the aim of this presentation. The aim of this presentation is to examine the various components of research articles with a view to provide insight on the technical requirements of a research paper that is suitable for publication towards making contributions to assist researchers in developing manuscripts that are devoid of avoidable technical errors. The objectives of this presentation are to highlight the components of academic research, and then secondly, to examine the components to ascertain their specific requirements. But before we go into the nitty-gritty of the components of academic research, we need to have a clear understanding of what academic research is all about. I've been able to come up with some key elements of academic research to help us understand better what academic research is all about. The first is that academic research involves judgment by no any other standard outside the truth. In other words, whatever you are going to put out for us must be the truth and nothing but the truth. You are not expected to embellish whatever you want to tell us, or to begin to lie, to falsify data and all that. No. Research must be the truth and nothing but it. To seek or create new knowledge or obtain novel information. In giving us the truth, you can also come up with something that is new, that is novel. As a matter of fact, it is expected that whatever research you're coming up with should not be something that someone has done before. So every research must be unique. If a research has been solved before, then you don't have any business solving that thing again, because you can't be wasting our time in the research community to be reading something that has already been done before. You must come out with something new, even if it has been done before. What are you adding to it? What are you subtracting from it? What are you making of it that makes your own to be unique, to be completely different from what has been done before? So that is what novelty is about. In fact, some papers have been rejected in the past because, I mean, it's not novel. They just say that yes, you have done the research, but there's nothing new about this. I mean, this is something everybody has been doing. So what makes your own different? Then it must be systematic inquiry about the situation or problem conducted to discover facts. Systematic in the sense that it must follow a logical process. It must be something that you have predetermined how the research is going to go, and it must be seen to be scientific. A logical process that is scientific, that it's verifiable, that you can, pinpoint and say, yes, this is where he got this from, where he got that from. The systematic gathering of, it must be systematic in gathering, interpretation, and evaluation of data in a planned manner. So that means a research must be something that is planned. It's not something you stumble into. You must plan it right from the beginning. Every aspect of the research you want to write about, you must plan it. As a matter of fact, when I was doing my PhD, sometimes I write one paragraph in 3-4 days. I'll write it, and then I'll sleep over it. When I come back the next day, I'll see what I've written that, this one is missing there. And I keep writing and writing and writing. One paragraph in 3-4 days. That is how interesting research is, because you want to get it right. You don't want to put any information out there that people will start questioning you. So it must be systematic gathering, interpretation, and evaluation of data in a planned manner. You don't stumble into research. Ideas that can help to address a problem or provide solutions to the problem. That is what research is also about. And it also centers on reasoning logically, involve deductive and inductive approaches. Somebody will say, there's a need for a particular study. And then when you read what he has said previously, you are not able to pinpoint anything that he has said or made reference to that can justify him saying there's a need for so study. That means he has not convinced his audience enough. So if you say there's a need for a particular study, you must be able to provide justification for that statement by way of giving us what other studies have done in the past, up to a point that they have not done this, there's now a need for it. And if there's a need for that study, you must be able to convince your audience that if that study is not done, this is what the research community will be losing. So those are the kind of things that it's required for you can say there's a need for it. So there have to be that deductive and inductive reasoning of a researcher before he brings out anything to the research community. Then it must be scientific in nature. Scientific simply means it's a systematic, disciplined, rigorous, analytical, and critical. There's no aspect of the research that we should be asking you questions that why is it like this? Why is it? No. It must be rigorous. That means you must subject every aspect of the research into thorough, analytical analysis. And it has to be disciplined. Discipline means you are following a process that you must not deviate from. And of course, it has to be systematic. Systematic means you move from one level to the other. You don't come and tell us about your methodology before you tell us about your literature review, for instance. You don't begin to give us the results before you give us the introduction of the paper. We know every paper will start with an abstract, then followed by an introduction, then you go to your literature review, then you go to methodology, then you go to your results, then you discuss your results, then you give us the conclusion. So it is systematic, step by step by step by step. And every step must be seen to connect with the previous step and then introduce the next step. So that is what we mean by it is systematic. Then it is empirical in nature. Empirical, centered on observation and measured occurrences where actual experiences are used to derive knowledge instead of belief. Empirical, what do we mean by empirical? Empirical simply means it's verifiable. It is something that we can lay our hands upon. What are the basis of this research? He said, several studies have done this, they have done that, and you are not able to quote at least one or two of the studies. Then your study is not based on empirical evidence. It is just based on your own intuition. Students do that a lot. Where they don't have a basis for a research, they will say several studies have done this, some studies have done this, and they will not be able to give us a citation for just one or two of the studies. As a matter of fact, I keep telling my students, when you say several studies have done this, that means you must be listing at least nothing less than 7, 8 studies that have done it. But if you want to be safe, say some studies have found that you can now give us maybe 2, then we will agree with you. So if it is not empirical, then your research does not have a basis. Yes, there are some researches that be as a result of industry need. Maybe you want to develop a machine that will make harvesting of cocoa to be faster, because what the farmers are using now, they are using their hand. Then you must show us how some other tools have been developed to the point that they are not as effective as the one we want to develop. You understand? So that is understandable, but there has to be a basis. That is different from if your own research is going to emanate from a gap in literature. And of course, how do we assess research? The way we assess research is through blind peer review process. What do I mean by that? The blind peer review process is a process whereby you get a notification from the organizers of the conference or probably a journal that you should review a paper. When they send that paper to you, they are not going to put the name of the authors, the affiliation of the authors, where the authors come from. They will just give you the title of the paper and then give you what the paper is about. That's what's called blind peer review. It must have at least 2 people must review a paper. At least 2. That's why they call it peer. At least 2. So when those 2 people review the paper, each one of them will come out with their own judgment. The reason why it is blind is that they don't want you to be biased in reviewing any paper. You could be reviewing the paper of your friend, and you don't even know that it's your friend that wrote it. But the moment they put his name, they'll say, this is my friend. I don't want this journal to reject this paper or to let me not write bad thing about it. We don't do that in academics. Academics, the first thing I said is that you seek knowledge, which must be the truth and nothing but the truth. So there shouldn't be bias in the view. So that's why that is the way we judge ourselves in academics. So having said that, I would now like to provide you with a definition of research that I coined in 2003. And the definition is simply, this is scholarly or scientific research that is a rigorous, disciplined, methodical, analytical, critical, and verifiable inquiry conducted in a predetermined logical sequence for knowledge advancement of nothing but the truth, as well as to uncover new possible solutions to a particular known researchable problem. So the underlying word is researchable problem. There are some researches that once a student brings it up, I'll just tell you, Mr. Man, this your research is not researchable. You can't research on it. There's no, how are you going to collect it? How are you going to report it? How are you going to analyze it? And by the time I bring out all those questions to the student what I'm saying. So the research must be such that it is a researchable, topic. So what are these fundamentals of an academic research? This is where we want to start my presentation from today. I was able to discover that a research has 4 key parts that are fundamental academic research has 4 key parts, that is academic research articles. The first one is the title. research topic, author's name, author's affiliation, and author's contact information. The next one is the abstract. Under the abstract has the aim aspect, the methodology aspect, the key findings, and then, of course, key recommendations. And then the body of the work itself. That is where we have the introduction, literature review, methodology, results, discussion, and conclusion. And of course, we have the references. So these are the 4 key parts of an academic research that is suitable for what? For presentation. However, before we talk on these 4 key parts, there are other things that are germane to research which you must know. And I call those ones another 4 elements. They are, you must adhere to publishers' instructions. Every publisher, be it in the conference or in the journal, they usually give their authors a set of rules of that particular outfit, and you must adhere to it. Some of these rules will include how you are going to format the paper, what kind of citation you are going to use. There are several other things like that. But it is always advisable to first of all read the publisher's instructions before you even think of saying, I want to put my paper in there. Some of them even will tell you the number of pages or the word count. Imagine you have written a paper that is about 18 pages. And then by the time you now get to the journal outfit, you now discover that they don't publish something that is more than 10 pages. What are you going to do? Are you going to water down your paper? Because from 18 to 12, that means you are going to remove vital parts of that paper, which is not advisable. So that means you can't publish in that. So you must now look for a paper, a journal outfit that can accommodate that. There are some conferences that they will tell you don't go more than 20. Then some will say it is 20 that is, but if you have more than 20, for every page that you are adding, you must pay extra. There are some papers like that. I've published in a conference like that, about 30-something pages, but their maximum was, I think, 18. So every other page we had to pay for because we could not water down the findings of our research. Then the other aspect is use of good language to grammar. In our own situation, we are talking of English. Some papers have been rejected before because of just the grammar. The grammar is so bad that even the reviewer cannot even understand what the author are saying in some parts. Their grammar is so bad. So that's why it's not, yes, we know that English is not our father's language, but at least academicians are, to some extent, expected to have good command of English. And if you are the type that don't have good written English, after you have written your paper, there's no shame in getting somebody who is an English major. Please help me edit this paper and help me go through it. They'll go through it for you, and then make all the necessary corrections so that you don't go and embarrass yourself at the point of reviewing your paper. Then the other one is avoidance of plagiarism. You all know what plagiarism is about. Plagiarism is when you take credit for another person's work without due citations or references. Some of them all do it not because we want to do it, but we just do it ignorantly. And in law, they say ignorance is not an excuse. So that simply means you must do it right. If you are taking something from somebody's paper and you are presenting it as if it is your own idea without actually putting citation there, it's called plagiarism. And in academic circle, we regard it as a fraud, and it is a crime. As a matter of fact, some journals can ban you for life if they discover that. A lot of people have been embarrassed, and disgraced internationally for things like this. So, in order to avoid plagiarism, what do? You cite whatever source you are bringing out, and then you paraphrase the idea. And you cannot take a whole idea from the whole paper and say you want to paraphrase the whole paper and then you now present it and then you say you're citing. No, that's not what we mean. It's bits and pieces, the result, what did the person find and how is it different from what this other person find. That's how you use all these previous work. It's not the whole idea you put on your head and say you're paraphrasing. No, it's not done. In this era of computer, ChatGPT or whatever, we find situations whereby students carry a whole project done in maybe another school, and then they will go and put it in software who will rewrite everything for them, and then they go and present. That is criminal in academics. If you do that and you are caught, honestly, even that degree that you want to collect, they can stop you from collecting it and say this one is not a good ambassador of the academic world. So we have to try and avoid plagiarism by putting proper citations and, of course, references at the end of our work. The right ordering of every section. Like I said earlier, academic writing is logical. It has a process. One thing leads to the other. You have the title page. After the title, you go to the abstract. At the bottom of the abstract, you have your keywords. After that, you go to the introduction. Introduction also has how you write it. We will get there now when we want to look at all the various aspects. So it's logical. Go step by step by step. So you must order everything rightly. You don't put the cart before the horse in academic writing. Very, very important. So let's look at the first aspect. I said we have 4 key aspects. The first aspect is the title section. So what does the title section comprise of? It comprises of 4 key parts. We have the research topic, the author's names, the author's affiliation, and of course, the author's contact information. And every aspect of this is very, very important. The topic helps you to understand what the research is about. Helps you to understand. So it is either written as a declarative statement, but without a full stop at the end, or in form of a question. A topic can be in form of a question. I've had a situation whereby students, when they write their topic, they put full stop as if they are writing a sentence. No. Yes, it's a declarative statement, but the title does not have a topic. Where a student writes a topic and they put full stop at the back, you know that this student is ignorant. That can the organizers please kindly mute the person that is on mute? Joseph Adeyemo, please mute yourself. Thank you. Joseph Adeyemo, mute yourself. Thank you. So the topic does not have full stop. Then the topic must be short, precise, and devoid of unnecessary words. There's what we call redundant words. Some topics are such that once you write them out like that, there are some words, when you remove them from the topic, this topic still stands. So the question is, why are those words in that topic? If this topic still means the same thing without those words. In other words, what I was saying, an investigation into the so and so. Now, remove the word "and" from that topic and just say investigation into so and so. Will the topic still not stand? Obviously, it will stand. That simply means that first word is redundant. So you remove it. It's not necessary. Every word must be necessary in the topic. So that's why topics are within 5. Some people will tell you 5 to 16. Some people will say, okay, it can be at least 18. But to me, topic should not be more than 18 words. If it's shorter, it is better. And it must have all those key ingredients in there. Then you should really make use of acronyms or abbreviations. You see somebody in a topic, they are writing something UN. What is UN, for instance? UN is United Nations. So put it there, United Nations. We don't want to put words that could mean 2, 3 things together, because there are some acronyms you can say FG. FG could mean federal government. It could also mean federal something that has G. So we don't know which one you are talking about. And then you don't even say United Nations bracket UN. No, United Nations is okay. Remove the UN. Go and put that one inside the body of the work. So topic should not have acronyms. Then it should not be casual, contain flowery language or sound funny. Academic is not a joke. We are not here to joke. We are here to have serious business. So your topic should just go straight to the point. It should not be something casual that we read and we say, what's this one? Or you embellish it with flowery language. No. Then it should be accurate and show the subject and scope. The subject means what do you want to do? What is seen in the study. Then the scope, the location, where, the how, everything should be in the topic. Then make use of words that generate positive impressions and stimulate interest of readers. There are some topics when you see them like this, you just say, what is this? You want to go further to read the abstract because it is this topic that will make you know that this is what I actually want in relation to my own research. So if it's interesting, you want to go further by going to the abstract. And if the abstract too is also interesting, then you move further and on and on and on until you finish the paper. Then you make use of current terminologies in the field of study. Topics are supposed to make use of current terminologies. What are those current terminologies that are being used in your field? They should be in your topic. Then you identify dependent and independent variables and all that. And then make known the way the paper is organized. In other words, from the topic, we should be able to know whether this is a paper that you are going to collect data from the field or it's actually a literature review. So that's why you start a paper with a review of so. By seeing that paper, I already know that this is a literature review. Or you say problems and challenges of architecture in Nigeria. Then you put the acronym there. Then you write a literature review or a meta review or a whatever review. That already makes the research the reader to know that this paper is dependent on secondary data. The data from this paper the result from this paper is gotten from secondary data. So right from the onset, you should know whether a paper is going to the field to gather data or it's a review paper. Then let's look at the second part of that is the categories of title. What are the various categories of titles that we have? We have what we call the nominal title. We have the compound or hanging title. We have the title that is like a full sentence. And of course, the title can be a question. So let's look at this critically and let's see how each one, the same topic, how we can write it in 4 different ways. So the first one, the nominal title, captures the central theme of a research, e.g., introduction of AutoCAD software to enhance students' architectural design skills. That's what the paper is about. Introduction, how do we introduce AutoCAD, to software to enhance students' architectural design skills. Now, if you want to write that same as a hanging title, that is compound. You say, makes use of colon, that is, you hang it. The introduction of AutoCAD software in enhancing students' design skills. You put colon there and say students' perspective. See, we are saying the same thing. That first one is correct. The second one too is also correct. Then we can put it in a full sentence. That is, make it that you won't put a full stop because the introduction of AutoCAD in curriculum is a necessity rather than a matter of following trend. So you have already told us what everything is about. So we know that we want to go into the paper and see how you have made it a matter of necessity rather than a matter of trend, because it's a complete sentence now. And then the last one is if you are now going to ask it as a question, you can ask Is the introduction of AutoCAD in curriculum a matter of necessity or following trend? You can see that now. That one is now a question. The third one, the reader already knows the answer because you have said this is what it is, but he just wants to go into the paper and see how you have been able to convince him that that is the way forward. So, but in the last one, the reader now wants to go in there and find out how is it. Is it a matter of necessity or a matter of following trend? The next part of the title is the author's names. And this is written in such a way that you just give us your name. We don't want to know whether you are a professor, you are a doctor, you are an engineer, architect, or whatever. You don't want to know. You are Tunde Sholanke, so just write Tunde Sholanke there. The surnames are written in full, while the other names could be in full or abbreviations. However, it is usually determined by the journal or the conference. But some people are liberal, they just allow you to write it the way you want to write it. So an example is, I'm using my name as an example. You can write Anthony Babatunde Sholanke. That would assume that Sholanke is the surname because it is written loud. There is nothing in it. So if you write your names like this, everybody will pick the last one. Sholanke. There was a mistake somebody made one time. He wrote my name. One of my students, after writing the paper, we checked it and everything was okay. And then by the time he sent it to the publisher, he now wrote Sholanke Anthony Babatunde, and he did not put a comma after the Sholanke, which is the second one you are seeing on the screen. Sholanke, comma, Anthony Babatunde. By putting that comma there, we let anybody know that it is Sholanke that is the surname. But every other one is now my name. The student did not put comma for me. He just wrote Sholanke Anthony Babatunde. By the time that paper was going to appear in my Scopus page, they opened a new Scopus page for Babatunde as a surname. And I was expecting it in my Scopus page. After like maybe 3 months, I didn't see it. I had to write to Scopus. I said, what is happening? This paper was said to have been published. I didn't see it. They now said it has been published now, blah, 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 blah. And he sent me details of the publication in Scopus. I said, it is a new paper, a new this thing. It's written that Sholanke Babatunde has one Scopus paper. This is my paper now. It should be under my own name. So I now told them. So they now said that I must go through the conference organizers to complain, and then the conference organizer will now write them, they will now do this, now do that, and then now, it took maybe another 3 months. By the time we did all that, they now closed that. They closed that particular what is it called profile, and then added that paper to my own. But you can see the stress I had to go through just because of comma, you know. So if you want to write your names in such a way that are using the same case letters like this, you must put comma if the first one is your surname. But if you don't put comma, they will just pick the last one as your surname. Then you can also write it in this format, Anthony B. Sholanke. Then you can use your initials, AB Sholanke. Obviously, they will know that Sholanke. Then you can also write Sholanke, AB. And those are the ways that you can write. And of course, it can be in uppercase letters too. It's not that I'm just using this lowercase letter to you. The names should be listed according to 3 different types, but the first one I'm going to mention is usually the one that people use most, and that is in descending order. So that means the first name on the paper is the person who initiated, who has the highest contribution, or who is like the supervisor, you know, who is the person that made, you know, the paper to actually be what it is. That's the first author. And you find out that when you have a BSc, you have master's project, you are writing with your students and all that, you find out that you will be the person that is giving all the directions. So oftentimes you find out that you will be the first author, then the student will be the first, second author, and so on and so forth. But in some situations, it is not true, especially when the student owns the job and you are just helping the students to fine-tune the work. For instance, in a PhD work, the supervisor is never the first author. The student will be the first author. Because if the student is doing the research, we are just giving him the direction. When it's in BSc, whether you like it or not, I've never had any BSc student of mine who did the research by themselves. I'm the one who gives them all the directions that they do. So that's why oftentimes you find out that when a student is not doing well, especially in a lower class like that, tendency to blame the supervisor will be a bit high. However, there are some students, the supervisor wants to help you, but you are the one who is not helping yourself. You won't come out to the supervisor. So when he calls you, you won't be there and all that. So in that situation, you can also blame the supervisor for the student not doing well. But oftentimes, the supervisor is the one that drives the student. This is how you collect the data. This is the type of instrument you use. Bring your questionnaire, correct it. This is the way it is. This is the way it is. So that kind of paper, if you finish it, the supervisor is the first author. You know, so you arrange the names in, sending order like that. The next one is now list the authors in alphabetical order. That one is hardly used now. So because that would just mean that you just list them in the if somebody's name starts with S, it will be the last person, another one that starts with A. So that doesn't really not it's rarely used. Then author's affiliation, that's the name of the institution of the author, and of course their firm or the firm, because it's not only people in academics that write paper, we have people who also work in research institute and specific architects write papers. So those ones they will put the name of their firm there. So that's how that works. So, and then of course, author's contact information, that is the email. In those days, some people used to put their phone numbers and all that. But when people start disturbing you, calling you and all that, you will not like it. So email is okay and better. So a typical example of how a title section looks like is what I've just put on the board. You will see that the first thing is the paper title and then the names of the authors. You will see things like 1, 2, 3, 4 written beside the names of the authors. The first one stands for the first author, then the 2 stands for second author, third, and then the fourth author. And then each of the authors' affiliations will carry their corresponding number. The first author, for instance, and the second author, they are from Department of Architecture, Covenant University. So you see 1 and 2 beside their name. Then the third author is actually from Department of Building Technology, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. You see 3 beside his name. And then the third author is from Department of Estate Management. And of course, their emails to have those signs right there. So the next thing is the abstract. Abstract is just a summarized version of the research work that can be understood on its own without even reading the paper at all. Without reading the paper. That means in the abstract, you must know what the research is about. You must have a clear understanding of the methodology that was used, and then you must have an idea of what was found, and then what was recommended, and of course, the significance of the study. So if an abstract, you are reading an abstract, you cannot pinpoint what the research was about, the why, the aim of the study must be in the abstract. Then where the study was conducted must also be in the abstract. Was the study done in Nigeria? Was it done in Ghana? Was it done in Lekki? And so on and so forth. It must be there. Then how the study was conducted is also sometimes in the abstract, or most of the time. Because you must tell us the method that was used. How? It must be there. Is it a case study? Or is it a survey? Is it a qualitative research or a quantitative or a mixed approach, and so on and so forth. Then you must have information on the respondents. How many respondents were used for the data? How many buildings did you look at, for instance? Is it a multiple case study? This topic says evaluation of biophilic design principles in academic buildings, for instance. To what extent have they applied biophilic? So what did your study find in line with that topic is key to what you put in your key findings, because you're not expected to write everything your research found, but that one that relates to your aim, what you should put here. And then of course, what did you recommend? Then after that, what is actually the significance of your findings? So what is the major implication of the finding? That is the implication, the significance it has to be there. And of course, the keywords. The keywords are very important. There should be words that are major words, to your research. Like for instance, somebody who is doing something on biophilic design, in academic buildings, in Government University, keywords will be things biophilic, academic, buildings, and so on and so forth. So because this is useful indexing in a paper. So when you go online and you want to search something in relation to biophilic design, and you just biophilic, or something that has to do with biophilic in academic buildings, that paper will be one of the papers that will pop up. So keywords are things that you carefully select so that when people are looking for something in relation to what you did, your paper will be one of the papers that will pop up for them. If you don't carefully select your keywords, your paper will just be somewhere and you'll be looking for something that is related to your paper, but because you did not use the right keywords, your paper will not come up to those who are searching. So you just formulate now something you have to carefully select. Now, the next part of the body after the abstract is the introduction. The introduction, the components of an introduction, I've tried to list them out, step by step, but the key ingredients are that you first of all introduce the topic of the research and offer brief description of your key operational terms. You are doing something on biophilic, you are doing something that has to do with universal design. You want your audience to first of all have an idea of what biophilic is, what universal design is, and all that. So you first of all introduce the topic of the research and offer brief description of its operational terms. Then you explain the importance of this topic, its importance to practice, its importance to the academia, to the social circle. If it has to do with law, you just how important that topic is, to existence. And then you provide background information and set the context and rationale for that study. That simply means you are going to mention past studies, past attempts to solve related problems and how the study differs from those past studies in order to establish a justification for this your own study. This is where a lot of students miss it. Because they have not done adequate empirical review. Because before you can write a good problem statement or justify why your research is necessary, you must have done adequate empirical review of past studies and have been able to identify an area that past studies are lacking, which your own research wants to fill. So it's very important. If you read an introduction and you cannot pinpoint why that study is necessary, it means the person has not done adequate empirical review to justify that study. Then, of course, you have to spell out your research problem. Sorry, two types of research problem. You have the generic research problem, and then, of course, you have the research problem. Usually, people just tell you about their generic problem. Oh, studies have found that public buildings are inaccessible to people who are physically challenged, so they have been marginalized. These are known problems to all researchers in the field of universal design. Yes, we know it, and so then you are not doing your own research to go and investigate the problem again. Is that why you research? That's a bigger problem that everybody knows.
about universal design studies. Now, what is now your own specific research problem that you want to do? Oh, several of these studies have been conducted in institutions of learning, in this, in that, but no, we have not actually looked at, maybe factories or maybe banks. And this it is important we investigate this type of buildings too, because of so and so. So that is why this study has been coined in such a way that we want to investigate, first generation banks in Nigeria to see how far they have gone to, because recently the CBN brought out a directive that banks must comply with the Disability Act. So you can see how you are building up, justification for that your own research. But if you just say because people are buildings that researchers have found that can I do this, so I want to do a research in banks. The question will be why banks? So you must build up a clear justification, and then you must be able to formulate research questions or hypotheses. Then you now state the aim and objective of the study. Then you provide the significance of the study. In writing your aim must have two parts. The first part is what is it that you want to do, and where do you want to do it? Oh, we want to investigate biofriendly design strategies in Covenant University, Otago State, Nigeria. That's the first part. With a view to do what? What do you want to achieve by doing that? You must put it in your aim. So where your aim is just telling us what you want to do without telling us what you want to achieve by doing it, that your aim is not complete. Especially in my own field, it's not complete. It's not enough for you to just tell us what you want to do. You must give us a justification. And then the body of the research also, the third aspect is the literature review. This literature review is the one that follows the introduction. Actually, if it's a literature review paper that you are actually writing, then after the introduction, you are not going to have a literature review. You may not have a literature review. You just go to your methodology, because the whole paper itself is a literature review, except if that literature review is as a result of something and you still want to have some kind of form of literature review into that, which is different from what your own literature is going to review. For instance, if you want to give us a review of the universal design contents of Nigerian disability law, that is what you want to do. So it's a literature review paper. However, in this particular paper, you want to give us an idea of what other clients, their disability law is talking about. Then you can formulate the literature review aspect. But if it's possible for you to take all that aspect and put it in the introduction, then you will not need a literature review aspect. You will just have your introduction, your methodology, and then you tell us what you have found, because you have embedded that literature review aspect in, maybe 2, 3, 4 paragraphs in the introduction, just to build up the introduction aspect. So we have what we call the types of literature review. We have the conceptual, the empirical, and of course the theoretical review. And all this must be seen in your literature review. When you are writing a paper, your paper is just like your thesis too. Every section of the thesis is in the paper. You put it in short format. For instance, the introduction of your paper is also made up of background to the study, the problem statements, the aim of the study, the research questions and objectives, the justification for the study, and then maybe the scope, and then you can tell what is the setting of your study. And of course, you will have defined some key terms in it. So you see that every element of that your thesis or your dissertation that forms the introduction of your project is also what will be in this particular introduction aspect of a paper. The only difference is that you don't now title it. You don't give it subtitles. You write in paragraphs. maybe your first paragraph is talking about the background to the study, maybe the first two paragraphs. Then the next paragraph is now introducing the problem. Then the next paragraph is now telling us why that problem is necessary, trying to justify the need for that research, which will now follow the preceding paragraph. Then the next one will now be the aim and the objectives of the study, and then the scope of the study, and then the significance of the study. You can see all those things that you usually put in your dissertation is also supposed to be in the introduction. So the same thing in this particular literature review section. Usually have your conceptual review, the empirical review, the theoretical review. So we should see all those things clearly in your literature review. In your literature review, you can use subsections, but you can also just make it a literature review without subsections depending on the requirements of the journal you are writing for your paper to publish. So conceptual review simply means, what are those concepts, that you want to talk about lighting, for instance, in a museum. Okay, you want to tell us what museum is, you want to tell us the benefit of museum, you want to tell us what lighting is, how many types of lighting we have, artificial, we have natural, and then we have the artificial one. What are the types of all those concepts, about lighting and museum and everything, and how important they are. You want to give us in the conceptual review. Then empirical review now is usually what you write you place after your conceptual review in your literature review. However, it comes first in your research. That means before you can start any review or any research at all, the first thing is you do extensive empirical review. That means you take past studies and go and study them. You review them. Tell us what the study is about. Tell us the methodology they use, the key findings, and then the key recommendations of the study. And of course, what is now left for that study that they didn't do in form of a gap. You note it. You pick the second study, you pick the third one, you pick the fifth one, and you go on and on and on and on until you have done enough extensive literature review in the last 5 years so that your work can be current. Don't go and be reviewing something that was done in 1990. No, that's too far away. In the last 5 years, maybe 6, 7 to add to it if you see find some papers like that, no problem. But the idea is that you must be able to know what researchers have been doing in that field, because that is the only way you can now identify areas that they have not touched that you now want to review. I asked a student the other day, the chapel service one day, and I was just the Holy Spirit now just ministered to me. Yeah, the Holy Spirit can lead you to do certain things, but the Holy Spirit will not lead you, in such a blind way that is different from what research expects. So it is expected that you develop your study from what others have done, so that you can now leverage on where they have not thought. Literature review can be developed as a separate article or as a part of a larger research work. Then it must provide information from existing selected works whose subjects are similar to the one you are about to work on. Then you must situate the study within existing body of knowledge in a particular field. It appears as an own works. So you see how literature review is very, very important, because it will give us an aggregate of what has been done in that field. So if it is not comprehensive and extensive enough, there will still be that doubt in the mind of your readers that this work could have been done maybe some years back, because the literature review is not detailed enough. So and then it indicates to readers what is known and unknown about the topic, thereby setting up the need for another research. So that is what literature review is about. It demonstrates a researcher's familiarity with the scholarly contents of a subject, develop a theoretical outline and procedure for research, and position the research within other studies or theories, indicates the way a gap is addressed by the research or how the research contributes with it. So in other words, the literature review helps you to put your work on a solid foundation, that this work is taken off from where this one's stopped, and not that it is hanging, not that it does not have a basis. That's what a literature review is about. So if your literature review is not able to do that, then you know that your literature review is deficient, you know, in the next aspect of the body is the methodology, which is also referred to as research methods. Some call it materials and methods. Some just simply say it's called methods. It describes the rationale, the way and manner the study was conducted. In other words, it tells us specific things about that study, how the study was done, where it was done, how it was done, why it was done, and so on and so forth. And it must be written in past tense. That's where a lot of students make mistakes. Yes, in your proposal, when you write a proposal for a project, everything you are going to be writing, you are going to be writing in future tense. For instance, your abstract, working abstract, you write it in future tense. I will do this, I will collect data here, I will do this, I will do that. Some students, when they now finish this study, they will still leave that part like that, especially the methodology. It shouldn't be. You should now go back and write it in past tense because you have already conducted the study. So when I read your methodology and I start seeing as if the study will do this, the study will do that, that means that student is not diligent enough to have gone back to the methodology and review it after he has finished the study. So the methodological approach used and justified for the techniques employed, that is one of the methodology parts. It must tell us the approach you are using. Are you using a survey? Are you using literature review? And you must justify it. Why do you think that collecting data through survey is the best way for that research? Do you have other studies that have been done before that you can now cite? Oh, according to so and so, you do this and this is how you do it. Hence, this study is using this particular method. So that is it. You cannot just say you are using a particular method for a research without convincing your audience that that method is the best method you are using. Then participants involved in the study. Who are the people you are using? What type of buildings are you looking at in your study? Is it academic buildings? How did you select those buildings? Is it purposive? Is this by simple random sampling? Did you stratify the buildings in such a way that they will follow a particular grouping first before you can now use your simple random sampling? All those things are issues for your methodology. When students say they do, what do they call it now? Simple random sampling to pick. Yes, research allows simple random sampling, but not using simple random sampling in such a way that your research is now not replicable. What do I mean by that? Sorry, can you guys still hear me? So let it not be that I'm just talking and talking and talking.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you. What do I mean by that? For instance, you want to do something and you want to select academic buildings in Covenant University to work on. If you say you use simple random sampling to pick 3 buildings, you're using 3 random samplings without first of all stratifying those academic buildings under their various groupings. Could be bias. And then it could be such that the research will not be replicable, because one of the reasons why research is scientific and systematic is that it must be replicable. That means if somebody sees your research and say, okay, let me use the same method and do the same research again, the person will be able to pick those same buildings and get the same results and it will be the same because you have come out with nothing but the truth. So, for instance, you want to pick academic buildings in CU to do your research. The first thing you do is you stratify. Okay, how many of these academic buildings are lecture theaters? You put them under lecture theaters. How many are college buildings? You put them under college buildings. How many are departmental buildings? You put them under departmental buildings, and so on and so forth. So maybe at the end of the day, you have about 4 groupings. Now, you now set up another criteria. You say, okay, because this research is about the law that was enacted 5 years ago. So the buildings you are going to pick are going to be buildings that were in place maybe 5 years ago. You understand? So out of all these buildings, you are only going to pick out the ones that are in place 5 years ago. And by the time you did that, some buildings were knocked off. And then you have maybe 2, 1, 3 in each grouping. Then you now say, okay, in all this grouping, I want to pick the one that is the most recently built. 1, 1, 1, 1 from each of the group. You see it? So by the time you pick that, anybody that comes and use that same method to select buildings in Covenant University to do that same research will still end up picking those buildings that you have picked. So you can see how your selection process is now such that it is replicable. But if your selection process is such that you give people opportunity to pick another set of buildings and they won't pick that your own, that you have picked, it means that your research is not replicable. And once your research begin to have that kind of doubt, and you are using simple random sampling, you just pick this, you pick that, it becomes a problem. So you must be able to make sure that when you are picking samples, you do it in such a way that if any other person comes and use that same method, he will still pick the same samples. Then the materials and instruments you are using must also be clear. The data collection methods must be clear. The data analysis procedures, you must let us know. Then the data presentation, the techniques you are going to use and all that. And of course, and ethical considerations are all the ingredients of the methodology aspect. So basically, methodology is about what is it, what kind of method am I using generally, how am I collecting data, how am I analyzing data, and how am I going to present the data. And in all this, how do I validate? What is the ability of all this, my process and the data? And then what are the ethical considerations that I have followed such that my study is acceptable in the academic world? So that is what the methodology should be able to tell us. Then the result aspect of the work. This is where you will tell us what you have found in the field. It is not a place where you are going to give meaning to your findings. No. That is the that many people make. They come to their results and then they start discussing it. This one is this, when this one found it, it did this and all that. You are going beyond what a result should be. A result should just tell us only the findings of a study without any form of subjective interpretation. Brief overview of what was found and not a presentation of every single detail or calculation. No. Only what statistical analysis should form part of a result. Specifics on the result analysis should be explained. What is it that you know? I don't want to know how you are analyzing it. That one you have already told us in the methodology how you did the analysis. So what did you now find eventually? What it should be. Ways of presenting results varies according to the nature of research and the type of data gathering. Result presentation is usually done by you describe what you have done and then you use tables, plates, figures, diagrams, charts, and so on and so forth. Present your results just to make it clear. Plate and figures should be clear and text numbers on them should be readable. A lot of work that when you see their plates when you see the figure they are presenting, when you see the drawing they have done, you cannot even read it. You don't even understand what is inside. So the question is, why put a document that does not make meaning, sorry, to your readers? You put a picture, maybe you cut and paste or something, and then the writings on it, they are writing something on it, and I cannot read it. It's so tiny. You don't put it. If you cannot make it bigger and make it for us to understand, then don't put it. Then lastly, when you are presenting your result, you don't use two mediums to present the same result. You see some people, they will present a particular result in tabular form. That same result, they will now do it in a pie chart or bar chart. And if it is bar chart or pie chart that you want to use to present a particular result, present it with bar chart and pie chart, and don't give us that same result in table. If it is table that you feel is the best way to use to present that, then give it to us in table. Don't give it to us in table, then under the table you put that same result in bar chart. It's a waste of time. We don't have that time in our you are presenting the same result in 2, 3, 4, 5 different mediums. No. The way you are using pictures to buttress, what you have presented. So that is what the result should be. It should be a place where the findings of the study being presented without any subjective interpretation. Now, when you now want to give it a subjective interpretation, move over to the discussion aspect. This provides interpretation to the results. The findings are discussed with previous studies in the field. That means you discuss your findings. You now situate that findings within existing knowledge. This is where you will know whether a study has done extensive literature review before bringing out the study. Because the quality of your discussion will show whether you did extensive literature review. If you don't have adequate studies to compare what you have found with, then we will know that you did not do extensive literature review. I've read some discussions in the past that the authors will just relate their study to 1 or 2 studies, and that is that. So you find out that you now begin to question, you now begin to doubt whether that study was necessary in the first instance. Then the result, the discussion section must provide information on the implication of the results. You must give us the meaning. Okay, you have found that when you check the fire safety equipment, all the passive, design strategies are there, but the major fire safety equipment are not in the building, like drenchers, but they have fire extinguishers, they have sand buckets and all that, but they don't have the major ones like drenchers, like hose reel, like dry riser, wet riser, and so on and so forth. They are not incorporated in the building, and the building is a 4-story building. So what is the implication of that finding? You must tell us as a must. And what is that? What is the implication? The implication is simple. Is simple. They have fire safety or firefighting equipment that can withstand minor fire. So minor fire can not stand in this building if it starts. However, if it's a major fire, this building is doomed, because all the equipment that they are supposed to use to put off a major fire is not in the building. That is the implication. So if there's any major fire in that building is already doomed before even the fire starts. So that's the implication of that. So you must tell us the implication of your results. When you have found these things, what are the implications? Then what is the limitation of your findings? Then explanation for expected or inconclusive results. There are some results that you can go and find and it's not conclusive, especially those who are doing experiments, and things like that. You must tell us the implications. Then avoid tangential issues, unnecessary speculations. You see that some students, it is in this discussion section, they start bringing in things that they did not even investigate in the first instance. into their results section. That's wrong. New results or conclusions not founded on the results should not be brought in. You should not include any data at this point. Any data you are putting here will be what is inside your result. You can only provide an explanation of what your result is about, but not that you are bringing in a new data to justify what you already have in your mind. So there are some people that have a set mind of what they want to do even before they do the research, and that is not good for research. You must have open mind. Then the conclusion aspect of the paper is not something that you just stumble into also. It's something that also must be methodical, written as an overview or summary of a study that echoes its significance, and it must consist of the following. Number one, you first of all remind your readers of what the study is about. That means that you set out to achieve what at the beginning of the study. So what the study was set out to achieve, as stated in the research questions, aim, objectives, hypothesis, and everything, will be the first thing that you will talk about in your conclusion. Oh, this study was conducted to examine this. And in order to do that, 3 objectives were set. This, and this. Fine, we have set the stage for your conclusion. Now, after you have done that, the next thing is to now tell us what are the things that the study found. Oh, the study found that this, and also discover that this is this and that is that. Simple. So what the study achieved by way of major findings will be the next thing. Then after that, what did you recommend? But what I usually do is that I don't give you what I recommend immediately. I'll first of all give you, after this, my major findings, what is my contribution to knowledge? So you must be able to identify your contribution to knowledge. What have you contributed? What have you contributed to knowledge? After that, then you can now tell us, your recommendations based on your findings. So, and your contribution to knowledge. These are my recommendations on this research. Now, after you have given us your recommendations, the question is, does your study have any limitation that could, have affected these results, and things like that? Maybe limitation in terms of scope and some other things. Then you must give us. You include limitations of the study in terms of research design, execution of the study, or applicability of its findings, and all that. And then based on all these limitations, you can now suggest possible areas for new research. Your research is not supposed to be the last thing. After all, your research also took off from other people's research. So that means you must also give an idea of what other people can also start doing after this your own research, so that they can move research forward. Then avoid introducing new arguments or data at the conclusion stage also. The conclusion is not where you begin to tell, this is what you found. Then you're not going to tell us, you are recommending that curriculums in the schools to be changed. The first question I will ask you is that, what curriculum part of what you investigated? You did not investigate curriculum, you investigated buildings. And then you are now telling us that students should make sure that the curriculum is changed so that they can do that. Well, that means you are using your set mind to tell us what you want, and that your recommendation is emanating from your results. So that's also very, very important. Then a very good research must also have acknowledgements. At least you must also acknowledge people who have helped you to develop your research. A section where authors appreciations effort of individuals, institutions, organizations whose effort contributed to completing a research work. It's also very important, because some will contribute financially for you, some will contribute by way of providing you with data for your studies. Some will also contribute by way of making sure that you use their equipment. For instance, some equipment could be very expensive for you to go and rent. and use to do your research, and then you found somebody who just allowed you to come and use their laboratory to do the research for almost nothing. You acknowledge those kind of people in your work. Those who could be appreciated include individuals or groups that made financial contributions, provide scientific guidance, help in statistical analysis, participate in a research as respondents, or give samples. All these people are people they are not authors. So people who say because somebody helped you to do analysis of a distance, now include his name as an author. No, it's not an author. For instance, we have some of us who are not very, very good in statistical analysis and all that. And then we are doing a particular research that we need to do some statistical analysis. Then we will get somebody, please help me analyze this thing and let me do it. But then he does it for you. You do all the tests and all that, and it gives you and then explain. Then you go back and present the result and explain it. That person is not an author in the paper, but you can acknowledge such a person in the acknowledgement. Then provide materials, instruments, or environment used for the work. Individuals should be acknowledged only by the use of their names. No need for saying Professor this, Professor that, is the VC of Covenant University. No. No use of flowery language where then you don't go and start saying, being sentimental. Oh, I want to thank my girlfriend who is this, who supported me throughout, who was cooking food for me when I was doing the research. That one is none of our business. That one is your own personal stuff with your girlfriend. Those are not the kind of acknowledgement that we are talking about. And then the last part of the paper actually is the reference section. This reference section contains full information of all in-text citations included in the body of the research work. It should be formatted, used various accordingly to the referencing style adopted. That the format used must be according to the referencing style. And some of these referencing styles are being provided by the journal or the conference organizers. They'll tell you use APA standard, 7th edition, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll even give you an example of how you use it. And all these various standards, they have different ways which they use. So you must have had papers rejected before because we did not follow their appropriate referencing style. Some referencing style will say you should use number. So the first author you cite in your work, you write 1. The next one, you write 2, you write 3, you write 4, and so on and so forth. Some will say, no, don't do that. Use the American Psychological Association standard, or use the Modern Language Association standard, or use the Chicago referencing style, and so on and so forth. References perform 3 main purposes. Number 1, enables authors to avoid plagiarism, which is very, very important, by acknowledging the ideas of others used in the work. Secondly, enables users to locate and consult sources used if need be. For instance, if I see something in your work and you reference somebody and I doubt that is it really this man that said this, then I'll go back to that work that man did and I'll go and check how did that man come about that subject so that it can help me understand that thing better. Then lastly, it indicates the scope and depth of the research work to readers. If I'm looking at your work and after finish reading your work and I go to your references and I see that all the references that you have there are not more than 12, I'll begin to ask myself, how will 12 reference bring out research that is this? No, there's a problem. Or you have references such that the currency of your references are such that the works that are in the last 5 years are just like maybe 20%. Most of your references are obsolete. Research your references that about 80% of your references are in the last 5 years. Then your reference is very, very current. So that brings me to the end of this research. Once more, I want to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to be of use to the academic world. Thank you.
A round of applause for Dr. Shoranke. React in the chat box. Thank you so much, sir. That was an amazing presentation. I've learned a lot. My notes is probably full. I've been writing a lot of things. It was indeed amazing. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate your time and your efforts. So we're going to go straight to the Q&A session. If you have any questions for Dr. Shulanke, kindly drop them in the chat box. If you have any questions for Dr. Shulanke, kindly drop them in the chat box. I'm going to give you a bit of time while I reiterate what I've learned from this presentation so far. I'm going to read it from my notes. The first thing that stood out for me was the fact that he stated that the title of any academic research is a declarative statement. However, it shouldn't have a full stop at the end. And there are four categories of title: the nominal title, the compound or hanging title, the full sentence title, and the question title. And that just opened my eyes to the different types of titles or categories of titles we could use when writing articles for an academic publication. Then for the abstract, we categorized the key points into why, where, how, and what. And the what was classified into three parts, which is what the study found, what the study recommends, and the implication of the study. I'm still waiting for questions in the chat box. You could type any of them, or if you want to, if you like to unmute yourself to talk, you can as well raise your hand, and then I'll let you speak. So let's move on to, all right, I can see some questions in the chat box already. Lastly, what I learned from this research, while I still wait for more questions, is for the literature review, there are three categories and more: the conceptual review, the empirical review, the theoretical review. Then the discussion should not include any data, any new data. It should be discussion of the results you got from your research. So that's something I paid attention to. Then for the acknowledgement, this one really cracked me up, was when he said we should acknowledge with their names, avoid titles, and avoid mentioning what he said. Let's take, for example, you have a girlfriend or boyfriend and you say, thank you to my girlfriend. It's not necessary. An academic research is a professional and formal research article, so you should let it be formal. Then for the references, the three major reference types are the American Psychological Association referencing, the Modern Language Association referencing, and the Chicago referencing style. So those are the tips I got from this session. All right, we have about 2 questions in the chat box, and I'll be reading them, sir. I'm reading them out for you. And then when we are done reading, you could answer them. The first question goes thus: how do we choose? All right, Adenike, that will be responded to. The first question is, how do we choose a topic when we have an area we want to look at, but we're not sure of which aspect to write the paper on? How do we choose a topic when you have an area you want to look at, but you are not sure of which aspect to write the paper on? That question doesn't seem so clear, but I'm not... Sir, is the question clear? Dr. Shulanke, was that question clear, please?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to read from the chat box. It said,
Okay.
how do we choose a topic when you have an area you want to look at, but you are not sure of which aspects to write the paper on? Yes, it's clear to me. It's clear.
Okay. And second question is, how do you go about doing a research that the result is to do a physical prototype of something or building something? Then the last question, which turns out to be a comment, is that he or she missed out on the types of title. Anyone who was following the class can as well help in responding to that last question and how the person missed out on the types of title. Oh yes, there will be a replay. Let's let Dr. Shulanke respond to these questions first before we move on to the replay. So you have the floor, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Kelechi. Glory Oluwafemi Onomi said, how do we choose a topic when you have an area you want to? Yeah, I said earlier, I think the two questions are relating to how do you determine, what you want to research about. And like I said earlier, there are two ways. The first one is that you want to leverage on past works. Where has past research reached that you now want to take off from it? So the first thing you do is to do a thorough empirical review. For instance, okay, as an architecture student, I want to design a church. And I want to see in the past, what are the areas, that churches design have been looking at, So I'll go into past works and start seeing the churches that have been designed. What are the things that people have been looking at? Oh, they have looked at circulation, they have looked at lighting, they have looked at acoustics, and so on and so forth. So all the researches I'm finding, this is what I'm finding. But I've not seen any one of these researches that actually looked at how we can use biophilic, design principle, for instance, to enhance the development of a church design. Then I will now say, okay, fine. Let me now go into biophilic researches. Let me see what kind of things have they been looking at. Oh, when I looked at biophilic, I saw, they looked at medical facilities, they look at academic buildings, they looked at this, they look at that, but none of them have also looked at church. I said, oh, fine, this is a very good place for me to start from. So I'll bring the two gaps together and join them together and say, that is why I'm looking at church. And then I'll give you reasons why biophilic design is important in church. That is how I develop my research for that particular study. Now, in terms of paper writing now, what I've just told you has to do with architecture students when you are coming up with your thesis. But if you are looking at paper writing is more like you want to look at past works, what they have done. And at the end of the day, what area have they not done? Or, okay, they have even done it, but it was done in America. Let me replicate it here in Nigeria to see whether there's going to be geographical the geographical difference will change the results. And if it changes the result, why is it so? And so on and so forth. So that is how you come up with a topic that you want to do. You must do an extensive research. You cannot just sleep and wake up and Holy Spirit drop one idea, go and do this research. That research is supposed to be based on past works. Past work. You go and start formulating past work after you have developed your own research. You understand? It is the past work that will help you lead to your own research. Because if you don't do that, you won't believe it. You could be thinking about a research that has been done 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So the question will now be, by the time you now discover what is now the essence of you, that we don't repeat ourselves. We don't have time for that. If somebody has found something, others will now be leveraging on that person as a citation. Oh, so and so person found that 85% of students do not use public toilets. It's a finding by somebody. But you say, no, I want to go and test it. And then you now want to go and find your own. And then you now found that 84.2% don't use public toilets. Is it not the same thing that both of you have found? So why did you waste your time to go and do that same research that somebody has done before in the first instance? So that is how you discover.
Just give me this.
Then secondly, the next person says, what's the other question? He said, how do you go about doing a research that the result is to do a physical prototype of something or building something? Yes, I said earlier, I said there are two ways you can address the research. The first one is either you are looking at past works, in terms of journal, in terms of conference papers, and aggregate what have all these past works been about and which area have they not looked at. That is leveraging on past works. Another one is leveraging on societal or industry need. You know, what do we need? Somebody, I gave an example. I said, you want to harvest cocoa, and then when you go to your cocoa farm, your cocoa farmers are using hand, climbing up, they do this one, and then it's taking a longer time. A cocoa to harvest, maybe just a small portion of cocoa will take you almost 1 week to harvest it. You don't have that time to waste because you want to be a great cocoa merchant who will be exporting cocoa abroad. And if you are using 1 week to harvest cocoa that will not satisfy more than 3 or 4 people, and you want to start exporting that cocoa, then that means that you are going to be on that plantation cocoa farm for the next 6 months, just harvesting. So you want to develop a machine. You want to develop something that will help you harvest that cocoa quickly. That is something that is needed in the industry. So that one does not really require too much literature review. It's a practical problem. And that is why you find that in engineering, most of their research, they come out with machines, they come out with all this one and all that. So you can also do, if that's what you want to do, at least you want to go into literature and see, have there been a kind of attempt in the past for anybody to design something to harvest cocoa? And if that person has done it, how did he do it? At what rate is he harvesting? That rate is maybe too slow for you as far as you are concerned. You can do something that is better. Then you now go and sit down and then do your research. But at least you will have had a background. So that background will have been, oh, you want something that is faster because it is. Then those who have done it in the past, this is what they did, this is what they did. You can do it better, your own will be like this. Then by the time you now do your own, you will now see that your own is actually an improvement of that particular one. I hope I've been able to answer that question.
Thank you so much, sir.
Answer the question?
Please, Glory, could you text in the chat if he has been able to answer your question?
And then the person that was asking about titles, I think I mentioned the 4 types of titles: nominal titles, compound titles, full sentence titles, and then the question title.
Thank you. Glory has confirmed that the question was answered. There's one last question in the chat. It goes, sir, in the discussion slide, the last point said provision of alternative explanation for the result is encouraged. Can you explain more about that? I'm going to read it again. Sir, in the discussion slide, the last point said provision of alternative explanation for the result is encouraged. Can you please explain more about that?
Yes. You see, there are some results when you find them. You actually found those things based on some parameters, based on a kind of setting that you met at that. So you can want to give reasons why those things are like that. For instance, if the opinions of the people that you are that form the bulk of your result are people who are CUSAT holders, and what you are trying to find out in that setting is something that is only people who are learned that can actually understand that thing better. You might want to say, oh, if you look at my analysis of the respondents at the beginning, most of the respondents did not have secondary school education. Hence, this could be the reason why the result is going in this direction. It could also be that you are doing something that male and female are contributing, and then in that opinion you have mostly that of male. So that means the opinions are largely influenced by the male dominating the research. That's why you find out that in most situations you want to do a kind of gender balance, so that anytime you are doing a study, you are having 52 male, 48 female, then you know that it is balanced. Or you have 47 here, 53 there, and so that any result you bring out, you will know that yes, it is balanced. So those are the things that we are talking about. That we could try to give, this is the result actually, but alternatively, and then and that is also why we have things like hypothesis. Though in our own setting we use research questions. Because if you have research questions, you don't need to be having hypothesis. So hypothesis is that, okay, this thing is this, so I think it should be like this, or this is supposed to lead to this. So let us go and test whether it will give us the answer. So if it gives you the answer, fine. If it doesn't give you the answer, this is what it gives you. Then you give an alternative that, oh, if it doesn't go this way, then it should be this other way. So all those things are part of discussion. It's not that we are introducing a new result, because if you begin to introduce a new result, then you have deviated from discussion. Like for instance, now look at what we are doing now at the end of this my presentation. We are discussing, but you can see that the discussion that we are discussing now is still based on what I have presented. We are not bringing anything outside this. We are not talking about politics. We are not talking about Natasha and Akpabio that we did not discuss in this particular presentation. It is still based on this discussion, but we are looking at it from different and more a bigger picture so that we can all have a clear understanding. I hope I've been able to also answer the question.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, she confirmed that the question was answered. Thank you so much, sir. Let's show our excitement in the chat box. If we really enjoyed this class, we enjoyed this presentation, I'd like to see us reacting in the chat box. Can use your favorite emojis. Just react so that we're sure that we're not the only ones left in this room. We're about 26 on this call, so react. I want to see the energy. Thank you so much, sir, for this. So we're going to moving on to the closing remarks and some few announcements. Thank you. I love the energy in the chat room. Quickly, I'll be sharing a link that you'll be able to access the replay of the what's it called? Of the sessions from yesterday and today. So that would be the first announcement. You can just check the chat box and you would see the link to the YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe. It's very necessary. The Society of Architecture Students, Covenant University chapter, have put together so many things for you. So to ensure that you stay in the loop and you follow through with all our events and programs for the rest of the session, kindly subscribe, like, comment, share. Whatever you do to support your friends' YouTube, do that for the SAS page because they've done a lot of work. Putting this together, we appreciate you on behalf of the students in SAS, and as well as NAS. We appreciate you coming together to make this a reality. We don't take this for granted, and we love every single one of you in the executives. So you can just access the replays in the chat. Remember to subscribe. I'm saying it again for emphasis. It's important that you subscribe so that you get all the information that you need as a member of Society of Architecture Students. With no further ado, this session of academic learning as well as learning things that you need in the industry has come to a close. It's been an amazing ride. For those of us that were here yesterday, we learned a lot from public speaking to computer softwares that are necessary for us as architects and students of architecture. And today we are learning about research, a very vital aspect of our academic program. It's been an amazing ride. I learned a lot. I can say the same for a lot of people because I got some feedback yesterday as well. So thank you to the guest speakers from yesterday as well as the guest speaker from today.